Oh, honey, you might want to sit down for this one, because the story I'm about to spill is no bedtime tale. It's whispered in royal corridors, hidden behind silken curtains, and guarded by people who swore they'd never utter a word. But Markus Anderson, yes, that Markus, Meghan Markle's old gatekeeper, her trusted confidant, the man who used to know what she wanted before she even opened her mouth, he dropped a hint that cracked open a secret the palace never wanted the world to know. Before Meghan became the Duchess, before she walked down that aisle with cameras flashing and the world gasping, there was another chapter, a darker, quieter one. One that began long before Prince Harry ever entered the frame. And if you ask the few who were there, they'll tell you Meghan wasn't always the woman the world saw smiling on magazine covers. No, back then she was a rising actress, hungry, ambitious, and ready to do whatever it took to get noticed. And, my dear, this chapter starts far away from the palace in the glittering waters of Nice, France. It was February 2002. The Mediterranean sky was painted that rich, impossible blue, and a Greek millionaire's yacht bobbed gently on the sea. The crew was busy polishing chrome railings and uncorking champagne, all for one special guest, Prince Andrew. Oh, he was at the peak of his royal charm then, still moving through society like a man who knew the world bent for him. But before His Royal Highness even set foot on deck, another guest arrived. A young woman with a dazzling smile, talking fast, laughing louder, her confidence spilling over like champagne foam. Her name? Meghan Markle. No one knew her. Just another American actress, or so they thought. She told the crowd her father was an award-winning Hollywood lighting director, that she'd just landed a role on an American hospital TV show, and wait for it, one day she'd be the first female president of the United States. Not maybe, not someday, no. She said it like destiny had already signed the papers. You could tell she wasn't just chatting, she was crafting something, her own myth, her own legend. People might have chuckled then, but that girl had a fire in her eyes, the kind that didn't flicker easily. And when the news came, Prince Andrew had arrived. Oh, you should have seen her. She straightened up, brushed her hair back, adjusted her dress. She looked toward the staircase like she'd been waiting for that exact moment her whole life. And maybe she had. Andrew stepped aboard, tall, charming, full of that practiced royal ease. He smiled, made polite comments about the weather, and shook hands. But when his gaze landed on Meghan, something shifted. It was instant. You could almost feel the air change. Now, darling, it didn't take hours. Not even one whole evening. Within 30 minutes, that young actress was sitting right on the prince's lap, wearing a little white bikini, whispering in his ear as if they'd known each other forever. People on the yacht looked at each other, wide-eyed, half amused, half stunned. But no one interrupted, because from that moment, it was clear Meghan wasn't there to float on waves and sip champagne. She was there on a mission. And Andrew, well, he didn't seem to mind at all. What happened next became the kind of rumor that circles through the years like smoke you can't quite catch. As the night deepened, laughter and music filled the air above deck. But two people were missing, Meghan and Andrew. They'd slipped away down a narrow staircase to the lower cabins, and they didn't return. Not that night, not the next morning, not for 3 whole days, the crew whispered. Guests giggled nervously. Food trays were left outside the cabin door, quietly, without knocking. Everyone knew what was happening, even if no one dared to say it aloud. And when someone overheard Meghan murmuring earlier, "I've got my prince at last," the sentence suddenly sounded less like a joke and more like prophecy. 3 days later, when the yacht finally docked back in Nice, the whispers were unstoppable. Meghan and Andrew stepped out separately, but everyone on that boat knew what they'd witnessed. It wasn't just a flirtation, it was an affair, the kind that could wreck reputations if it ever reached the wrong ears. But Meghan didn't disappear into the background like you'd expect. No, she stayed in touch with some of the people she'd met there, Theo, the millionaire's son, his girlfriend Melanie, and a backpacker named Bob who had watched the whole thing unfold. And through them, the story slowly surfaced again, piece by piece. According to Bob and Melanie, Meghan and Andrew kept in contact. Can you believe that? The phone calls, the messages, it wasn't over when they stepped off that yacht. Meghan believed she had built something real, something powerful. She wasn't giggling about Hollywood anymore. She was focused, dead serious. She saw Andrew as a door to a world she wanted to enter, and she thought that door was wide open. But then, Andrew returned to London, and everything changed. He stopped answering her calls. His office started blocking them. He reportedly told his staff, Don't put her through again. Imagine that silence, the same man who couldn't keep his hands off her for 3 days, now pretending she didn't exist. Meghan's calls went straight to nowhere. The phone stayed dead, and her fairy tale evaporated like steam. But, darling, that wasn't the end. Because according to what Melanie later shared, Meghan had something urgent, something life-changing to tell him. She believed she was pregnant. Yes. In those weeks after the yacht trip, she thought she was carrying his child. She tried reaching him again and again, but the palace line was cold, unyielding, and silent. She thought this news would make him answer, make him have to see her, but he never did. And so, faced with the kind of choice no woman should have to make alone, Meghan made a decision that would change her forever. She allegedly ended the pregnancy quietly, privately, because she knew what that meant for her life, her career, her future. A royal's child, without his name or his protection, would destroy every chance she had at the world she wanted. She was already talking to someone new, someone from Washington, connected to the Bush political circle. A baby would have ended that opportunity too, and so she moved on, at least on the surface. 2 decades passed. Meghan Markle became the Duchess of Sussex, married to another prince, Prince Harry this time. The cameras followed her again, the same way she'd once imagined back on that yacht. She was powerful now, a global name. But as fate would have it, the past has a nasty habit of clawing its way back when you least expect it. In 2022, during the Queen's Jubilee celebrations, the past found her again. Melanie, that same woman from the yacht, ran into Bob, the Australian backpacker who'd witnessed it all. He was older now, settled, married, expecting a baby of his own. They reminisced, laughed, and somewhere in that warm conversation, Meghan's name slipped out. And suddenly, the memories flooded back. The yacht, the cabin, the silence, the whispers, the secret everyone thought they'd buried forever. Bob never wanted attention. When a reporter from the Mail on Sunday came waving a $10,000 offer for his photo and name, he refused, twice. He said, "Tell the story if you want, but leave me out of it." And that's exactly what happened. The tale survived in fragments, murmured through private circles, repeated only by those who swore it was true. And then, Markus Anderson, Meghan's once closest ally, let it slip that yes, there was something she'd never want brought up again. A story from before the royal titles, before the palaces, before the speeches about empowerment, the kind of story that could still make her flinch if someone mentioned it too close. So the question hangs there, doesn't it? How different would everything be if Prince Andrew had just answered that phone call? Would Meghan's life have taken the same glittering turn? Would she still have become the Duchess who made the whole monarchy tremble? Or would that one weekend on a yacht have rewritten royal history altogether? Friends back home said she became quieter after that, more calculated. She didn't talk about that weekend again, not even to the people she once trusted with every detail of her life. But Markus Anderson, her closest friend, her silent guardian, he knew something had happened. He could feel the change. And when he later hinted about a chapter from her past that shouldn't be reopened, everyone around her knew exactly what he meant, even if they didn't dare say it aloud. And Prince Andrew? He carried on like it never happened. Back to the palace, the dinners, the photo ops, the polished facade of a man untouched by rumor. But behind closed doors, there were murmurs among his circle too. Some said he became nervous whenever her name came up, as if afraid the past would crawl out from under the rug and tap him on the shoulder. Others claimed he laughed it off, saying it was nonsense from an over-imaginative girl. But no one could explain why. When her wedding to Prince Harry was announced years later, Andrew's expression turned to stone. Imagine that, seeing the same girl you left behind on a yacht now stepping into your own royal family. Oh, the irony! The palace must have shivered from the inside. Because while the world was celebrating the modern fairy tale, those who knew the old story were choking on the silence. And Markus, he was still around, wasn't he? Still hovering near her circle, still protecting her like a shadow. Some say he made sure no one from that past life ever got too close. The people who knew the truth, the ones who saw her on that yacht, the ones who whispered about those 3 missing days, they all seemed to drift into silence, one by one. It's almost like the world was being cleaned up around her, preparing her for the spotlight. But darling, the truth has a funny way of finding cracks to slip through. 20 years later, when the Jubilee came around and old faces met again, those cracks started to show. The whispers grew louder. "Do you remember that weekend?" they asked behind champagne glasses and polite smiles. "Do you think Andrew ever told anyone?" And though nobody spoke the answer out loud, everyone's eyes said the same thing, of course not. But Meghan's rise didn't come without ghosts. Every photo op, every glamorous speech, every charity gala, behind all that perfection, there was still that one unanswered question haunting her like a shadow on the crown. What if he had answered? What if she hadn't been left alone with that secret all those years ago? Would she have built her life differently? Would she have still married Harry, or would her name have been erased before it ever reached the headlines? Sometimes, when you look at her during those big royal moments, the subtle tremble in her hands, the tight smile when someone mentions the Queen, the guarded eyes when reporters ask about her early days, you can almost see it. That memory flickering just behind the calm expression, the ghost of the yacht, the sound of the sea, the silence of a phone that never rang, and Markus, poor Markus, he never stopped protecting her. But when that rumor resurfaced, when the yacht witness Bob confirmed what so many had whispered, Markus couldn't contain the storm anymore. He tried to warn people, don't dig it up, let it go. But by then, it was too late. The world had already started piecing it together. So here we are, years later, and that same story still hums quietly through the corners of the internet, like an old melody no one can forget. People pretend not to believe it, yet they can't stop talking about it. Because deep down, they know where there's this much smoke, there was once a fire. And perhaps, my dear, that's the saddest part of it all. Meghan got her prince, yes, but not the one she once chased. She got her crown, her fame, her story told on global stages. But some chapters, no matter how much you rewrite them, never stop haunting the pages beneath. And as Markus once said in his own careful way, there are things from before the crown that should never see daylight. But daylight, darling, has a way of breaking through eventually.